All right, first, everyone, please mute your cell phones. If you parked in the Civic Center deck, you can get a parking sticker from the sign-in table to be able to park free, so you can get out. Yeah, okay, everyone's looking at that. And if you want to speak on any item on this very short agenda, please remember to sign up at the desk when you walked in, and follow those procedures. I'm trying to make sure I've got all of these. I think what we'll do first is do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Maggie, good job making sure we had a flag. Last time we didn't have a flag and we just looked at the corner. Okay. I need a motion to allow Councilwoman Whistler to participate remotely. She is here in our high-tech system using this cell phone and a microphone.
So moved.
She is still quarantining after COVID, so she's right at the end of that. And we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, from here on, we will have to do a roll call vote because we have one member attending remotely. We do not have any proclamations on our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Sandra.
Second, Shanika.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or comments concerning the consent agenda?
This is Kim. Is it possible that we could have a presentation on more information for, is it item F? Just like what that means, because it's so important that we have support for our first responders.
F, that's about the meeting schedule for.
Sorry,
oh,
item E.
Okay.
Sorry, it changed.
Do we have anyone here who can speak to item E, which is a resolution authorizing the city to apply for a grant and sign all necessary documents if awarded from the U.S. Department of Justice Law Enforcement and Mental Health and Wellness Act Grant 2022 for a wellness coordinator position in the Asheville Police Department?
Sure.
Yes.
We can have
Okay.
Captain Michael.
Please. Yeah. Can you come up, please? Okay, it might be getting hotter, actually. Is it getting hotter? Feels like it's getting hotter.
When you have a vest on, yes, it is. It is getting warmer. So good evening. So this grant is was opened March 22nd. It's got a quick deadline, so it closes on April 27th, the grant deadline for grants.gov, and then the full closure is April 29th. So that's why we wanted to move so quickly on it, and it wasn't to public safety first, because we really got to move fast to meet the deadline. It is $175,000 for 2 years, and it is for a. There's two things that the grant covers, which one is could be programs or coordinator positions, which is what we are seeking. The other one is for training for peer support and other such mental health programs. So the coordinator position would essentially oversee mental health and wellness for our officers, our current peer support program, the chaplains program, our embedded behavioral health clinicians, which have done a wonderful job, not only for the police department, but also for the fire department. And then also conduct suicide prevention training and just oversee our overall mental health and wellness program to make sure that everything is consistent and everyone is speaking to each other. I believe this is a really needed position. And, a lot of you know that I was attacked in 2018 by a guy with a box cutter. And initially, the services I received after that were kind of choppy. So it's good to have a coordinator position to make sure that none of our officers slip through the cracks, especially now during this time when it's so important for our first responders and officers' mental health to be looked at, and making sure that not only the officers are taken care of, but also their families are seeking services and being taken care of well, because what impacts us also impacts our families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deborah, can we learn about the mental health and wellness program at our next, or, in the near future, public safety meetings?
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Turner,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Aye.
myself, aye. Councilwoman Whistler,
Aye.
okay. Councilwoman Kilgore,
Aye.
and Councilwoman Roney.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Esther?
Yeah,
Did we have public comment?
no, I didn't have anyone signed up to speak under consent.
Thanks.
Luckily, since I just checked now. But good guess. Yeah. Okay. All right, next on our agenda is presentations and reports.
And as
You're-
Beth is
Runs
Oh.
in the microphone.
is coming, this presentation will be a part of the manager's report. Right, okay. We actually, you see on the agenda officially 2 items, but we actually have 3 items. We're going to have Beth Beagle, and if I butchered your last name, Beth, I apologize, update on boards and commissions. And secondly, we're actually going to have Brenda Mills, Director of Equity and Inclusion, give her an opportunity to introduce her staff. We are fully staffed in that department. And then she's going to introduce Salah Merritt to provide us an update on our reparations initiative. And so Beth, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you all.
As soon as Ben saves you. Well, that still says Sarah Gross, but that's okay. Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Beth Beagle. I'm a communications specialist helping with the proposal for restructuring boards and commissions. Starting off with some key takeaways. This is just a quick update to inform the council on where we began, where we are, and where we're hoping to go with the proposed restructure of boards and commissions, including council committees. I'll review the challenges identified with the current structure. From there, staff created a draft proposal for a more strategic, efficient, and inclusive system. We are providing many opportunities for community feedback, and we expect the input to inform the proposed structure from there. All right, for some background. We've been hearing from current and past board members, city staff, city council members, that the current system isn't as efficient or fulfilling as it could be. The city is also experiencing more operational issues that are affecting transparency and overall consistency among board work. As a result, staff created a proposal to restructure boards and commissions to better align our resources and really think through the system that could be more responsive to all the needs of our community. The proposal is a holistic systems approach with the goal of being very intentional about creating a system that is more inclusive, efficient, and strategic. This is a work in progress, but following best practices, we thought it was important to have a proposed structure for the community and council members to react to, and something for us all to collectively build on. All right, where are we now? The proposal that is posted online and that has been presented thus far is not a final product. It is very much a draft proposal that will continue to evolve as we have more conversations. To date, we've held 2 focus groups, one with chairs and vice chairs, and one with community stakeholders. Following that, we had 4 workshops that were held virtually, and we had 81 participants for those meetings. We've had all of those along with various independent conversations with board members and community stakeholders. The workshops were designed to explain the proposed structure and receive feedback. In this initial phase, we've received a lot of great feedback, all which can be found online on the project page. Following those workshops, we identified themes from the input received, which were sent to council and are also available on the project page. We will continue to collect feedback on the webpage and throughout the process, where the community is invited to review those themes and leave comments.
We have also extended an invitation for a working group. We're in the process of getting a volunteer working group together, where we've already had a handful of participants from the workshops, but we hope to extend the invitation to the wider community by the end of this week. The working group will have an opportunity to work collaboratively to inform the proposal. This is where we hope to tackle a lot of the in-depth details, like how do we ensure that the new system is truly inclusive and accountable, and how do we all get there together. And finally, next steps. We're hoping to get the working group together in April to start the initial conversation and start a work plan. Then in May, we're coming back to you all for a work session where we'll go into a deeper dive with council into the proposed system and any community feedback we've gotten thus far. So that's all I have for you tonight. Oh wait, we have a, following that, if we get council approval for the direction that we're heading to, we're gonna pilot the idea following that. And that is all I have for you. I'll try to answer any questions on it.
The only thing that I would add is I just wanted to thank Gwen Whistler, who has been kind of the representative from council that has supported this initiative. So greatly appreciated, Gwen. And sorry you're not here today.
Yes,
You
thank you.
can't get rid of me that quickly, Deborah.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the community members who are participating in the feedback around this process, whether it's through the community outreach we've done or through the boards and commissions level. The boards and commission members, especially those of you who are volunteering, your input is so invaluable to me as a council member. I couldn't possibly know all of the things that you bring to the table with your lived and professional experience. And so, speaking for me personally, I very much value the work that you do.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Brenda Mills. I'm your Director of Equity and Inclusion, and it is my pleasure to introduce my three new staff people. We have been fully staffed since the first week of February. Marcus Kirkman came to us December 13th. Stand up, Marcus. And he is our training consultant. Marcus has a military background, and then he's had a consulting firm doing training, and specifically working down in Mecklenburg County with the Sheriff's Department and other agencies, so we're really delighted to meet him. And then Mr. Darian Blue, I do mix their names up, by the way. I'll be pointing to one and the other one will be looking at me. He came to us via Greenville, via Florida. Darian, on his interview, had the spirit of outreach and community. It showed in everything he said, in the questions we asked him, and the examples he gave. Most of you are familiar with the Phyllis Wheatley Center down in South Carolina. He was the executive director for a while, and the reason I know that is because, beyond the fact that it was on his application, I was listening to the radio one morning, and it said the executive director was on the roof raising awareness about the center and its future, like we are with our YMI Cultural Center. And he stayed on the roof for 8 days, so you gotta love it, right? And then Elena Schmidt, who we stole from the Nature Center at Parks and Rec, interviewed actually for Marcus Kirkman's job. And when she came in, we all said, "Are you thinking what we're thinking?" We said, "Yeah." So what I did is they all have the same titles: Equity and Inclusion Consulting. Marcus leads in training and consulting, Darian leads in outreach and community engagement, and Elena leads with data analysis, and she is the liaison for our Human Relations Commission. And so Elena, we interviewed her, and she was awesome. She knocked it out the park. You know, if anybody needs how to interview, lessons, this young lady, she came to the interview. All of them did, but she came to the interview knowing she was gonna have an interview. You ever just met people like that? It's not very often. And when she came the second time, she knocked it out of the park. So she joined us February 7th. We have already begun, if you remember correctly, back in 2017, 2018, when we had our first director, part of our work was to work internally. So we've started to do a lot of that. Marcus has already hit the ground doing training with our internal staff. It has been very well received by our internal staff. Darian, every place I go, I hear he's been, or they're texting me and saying he's great. And then Elena, She came in. These folks just met all each other December and February. They work just like a seamless team. I'm sure they fight, they just don't tell me. But they are great. They have the passion for what we have to do with this program. And since I'm a bit of a short timer, we really want to make an impact on our internal staff, supporting them, as well as our community. So thank you for allowing me to have this time. And then I'm going to cue up Mr.
Wait a
Law.
second.
I'm sorry.
Short timer.
Yeah, you got me for maybe 3 more years after this.
I was just about to comment on that, Mayor, when she,
Okay.
I technically was going to retire this year.
So
Deborah-
Maggie was gonna retire like 20 years ago.
I'm not doing what Maggie did.
Maybe you could
But
retire like
literally,
that.
Deborah asked me about it, and I said, finish your vacation, I'll think about it. And I did, and I prayed a lot. And, you know, I told this to a colleague of mine the other day. Sometimes it's your season to be here. There are only things that Brenda Mills can do. And so I will do that, and I will be here to support this city. I love this city. I'm going to retire here, die here, unless my marbles go in another direction and my family has to come and get me. I'm going to be here.
we
And-
won't give her the mic.
no, we're gonna give it
anymore,
a mic. And I think what is so amazing is that these folks come back and say, man, you're respected in the community. Well, that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of relationship building. And I thank all the community for all their support, and we're just getting it. All of you as council as our support, so we really appreciate what you're doing. So anyway, now that the retirement issue is over, I am going to introduce Salamanaya Merritt. She is the Assistant Project Manager for Equity, and she will be going over our update for the Reparations Project.
Good evening. That's a hard act to follow, Brenda, right? She set me up. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Again, my name is Salamanaya Merritt, and I am the project manager over the reparations process. I am honored to be here this evening to provide an update on where we are in reparations in the process. And I guess I'm driving this, right? Let's see. All right, got it. So as you all are aware, we have all 25 commission members and 7 alternates seated. Our project team is currently meeting with the commission, doing one-on-one or onboarding. We are going over our proposed dates and times for the initial commission meeting, as well as providing them some information from specific sections from the onboarding guide. We're asking them if they have any additional support that they need from us, as well as additional questions. And we are looking to have the initial commission meeting the last weekend in April or first weekend in May. I will say that I put out a doodle poll to the commission yesterday, and it looks like April 30th might be that date, but we still have some time until tomorrow, the end of the day, to figure out when that's gonna happen. And then the regular meeting schedule will be published after the initial meeting. So some of the things that we are talking about or sharing with the commission briefly during our onboarding sessions are sections of the onboarding guide, purpose and background, the commission charge, as well as some statements of commitment, some documents they'll need to be signing off on, and the roles of the commission and its members. Our preliminary agenda topics for the initial commission meeting will again include the onboarding guide. We'll do a deeper dive on the onboarding guide. We'll also have legal there to answer any questions that the commission may have. We're going to discuss the election of the chair and the vice chair as well. The upcoming meeting schedules, we're going to try to get those in place, as well as the project plan phases, what community engagement looks like, and any issues or questions regarding public comment. The final agenda will be developed after onboarding sessions have concluded. The reparations project team will work with the chair and the vice chair of the commission to facilitate commission meetings, support its work, ensure that commission members have the information they need to develop recommendations. And I would like to take this time to introduce our team. I know that there are some who are attending virtually, and I do have one team member here with me, and I will introduce her as well. Deborah Clark Jones is the Senior project manager with over 30 years of experience in project management, community outreach, and analytics. Again, I am Salam Anaya Merritt. I am the assistant project manager on the team and also the liaison and facilitator for the criminal justice impact focus area. I've spent over 25 years working in the criminal justice field in California, Louisiana, and Savannah, Georgia, and most recently, Buncombe County. Tara Brown is the economic development facilitator on the team. For over 15 years, Tara has worked through local government and nonprofits to build inclusive economic development. She has designed and implemented programs to support asset building, affordable home ownership, and entrepreneurship in underserved communities. Tyshawn Johnson is our team facilitator for housing. Tyshawn has over 9 years of experience working in the field of facilitation, equity, community engagement, and grassroots advocacy. His background includes nonprofit work related to facilitation of equity-focused initiatives, local government work related to equity, and management grassroots advocacy. Dion Greenlee Jones, who is here. Dion, would you like to stand up for us? Putting her on the spot, she's gonna wave. Is a recognized leader in healthcare and serves as the healthcare facilitator on the project team. Dion has extensive experience in implementing public health, social justice, equity, and community engagement initiatives. And lastly, but not least, Dr. Amiris Lavender earned her doctorate in education policy with a concentration in urban education from Michigan State University. In her scholarship, Lavender has researched and worked across issue areas including organizational culture, policies, and program implementation. She is the education facilitator on our team. That concludes my presentation, and I am here for any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
And if we could, Salah, if you have any estimate, and you may have said this and I just overlooked it, the first meeting will be scheduled?
We are looking at April the 30th or May the 14th.
Okay, great.
Or it may be a combination. So April the 30th and May the 14th could be a 4-hour meeting, or we would have a 2-hour meeting on April the 30th and a 2-hour meeting on May the 14th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, why do you guys keep looking at me?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure you announced the city's alternates.
Oh. Okay. Are they on here? Is it like secret code or? No, this is my handwriting. but- Oh, these- okay. Sorry. Okay, here I have it. So we already appointed our members to the commission, but we also needed to appoint our alternates, and it's Tiffany Debelo and Osandu McPeters. Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't able to read the.
I just want to share, I love the enthusiasm over here. Brenda, I'm so glad you stayed and have gotten
Because
this
they're so
wonderful
hot.
team.
They're like sweating it out. We're going to get this heat thing fixed as soon as we adjourn, probably at this rate.
And so, Mayor, and Council, that concludes my presentation for the manager's report for this evening.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we do have a super short agenda tonight. I do need, under the public hearing, we don't have any public hearings because the one that we had needs to be continued to May 24th. Do I have a motion to continue public hearing item A to May 24th?
I'll move. This is Sage.
Sandra, I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I'll need to do a roll call vote. I'll go this way this time. Councilwoman Roney,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kilgore,
Aye.
Councilwoman Whistler,
Aye.
okay, myself, aye, Vice Mayor Smith,
Aye.
Councilwoman Turner,
Aye.
and Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our agenda, so we're gonna move into the public comment portion of our meeting, the final portion of our meeting, and I do have a few people signed up to speak. The first is, and under this portion of the agenda, while Maggie's turning off the presentation, Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to speak, and I believe Maggie will be keeping track of the time with her timer, so we'll just hang on just a second. The first person signed up to speak is Jack Logan.
Ms. Mayor and Deputy Mayor, I recall meeting y'all some while back. I'm the founder of Put Down the Guns, Now Young People organization. We educate children and teens across the United States. We're national partners with Project Child Safe, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and McDonald's. The purpose of me being here tonight, in July of 2018, there was a 12-year-old child that was cold-blooded murdered. He was innocent, Derek Lee Jr. I've been emailing some of y'all because I did not know y'all was new, been elected here. I learned on yesterday that it was a housing authority that built the playground down there where Lee Walker Heights was. And they did tell me they was going to put up a bigger sign. I'm annoyed at the chief of police. Y'all went out and hired this man to come here. On the top of his agenda, Mayor, he had an innocent child that was murdered. Not one time has he gone to the mother, to the father, to the grandparents. I drove from Greenville, but forget about me driving up here. We met at the city hall with some detectives. His excuse then, he was still transitioning to Asheville. But those days have passed. He's still yet to meet with them. We stood over there at Lee Walker Heights because we was under the misunderstanding that y'all was going to have an announcement about that park. There was a detective came over there. He was very rude to them. And I went as far as, we got talking about the black-white racial elected officials. And Pastor Darian Blue sits to my left. I told him we had good black elected officials that speak out against crime and support law enforcement. And he said he didn't believe it. And I gave him names that, and more or less, he was putting down the black elected officials here in Asheville. And that wasn't good to me. Then I did notify the chief and his administrative assistant. And then the same detective called me up, and he apologized. But that was not acceptable. I want justice for Derek Lee Jr. I should not have to come up here. It's the duty of the chief to go meet with that mother and that father and those grandparents, Mayor. He's not too high. You've been very nice. You and the mayor pro tem. I think the lady over there with the mayor. I think y'all been very nice about this since it happened. Y'all hired him to do a job, and his duty is to do a job for the people in the city of Asheville. And I thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Sharon Summerall.
Hi, everybody. Sharon Summerall, City of Asheville. I'm here for the Boards and Commissions response. I have my Boards and Commissions staff handbook from 2017, and I'm on 2 boards and commissions, and the number 1 on the organizational chart are the citizens of Asheville. I've attended 1 focus group and 2 workshops, and I've signed up for any additional workshops that they may have. And most of the feedback that I've attended has been about 90% negative. I've given a lot of thought about the proposal for a more strategic, efficient, inclusive system, and I have some good ideas that I will propose if another working group is formed. Every citizen should have the right to participate on issues that concern them. I did and I do. But there are a lot of fantasy going on with the amount of boards and commissions the current structure is proposing. I believe this is a slash and burn method. I have researched a lot of the cities with the population that we have in Asheville, and I have found that the minimum amount of boards and commissions is about 20. And so I know that 4 is probably the least amount we're thinking about, but we've got to be realistic about what it looks like to combine boards and commissions and how much work we can get done. To align this structure with the Living Asheville Comp Plan is a grand idea, but the comp plan is an ideal that we should try and attain, but the city is run by the ordinances in the UDO, and the UDO sets the standards for our quality of life. And if ordinances run the contrary to what the citizens want, such as what created the hotel moratorium, then the boards and commissions should have that opportunity to participate in those changes, not just an ideal as the comp plan. We on the Urban Forestry Commission have been weighted in the 3 years I've been on it, deeply in the UDO and in changes of ordinances. I have worked with many of the city staff, and they're great, including Brenda, who is highly entertaining. And I'm all for whatever the city needs to make their life easier. And I do know that on the Urban Forestry Commission, that we don't always need a liaison, although I'm grateful for the liaisons we have to answer all the technical questions. But lots of boards and commissions can be run on their own, take notes, and then maybe, let's say, every other month have reports given to the liaison, as opposed to taking up all the staff time. So I've got 4 years on the UFC and 1 year on NAC. And I've seen the pitfalls on some boards and commissions and the strengths. So I'm going to continue to involve myself, and I'm hoping that you listen to all of us that are on the boards and commissions, because we all have good feedback, and all that I have talked to are concerned about the amount of reduction that this is going. So I appreciate the time of listening, and thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Will Hornaday.
Hello. I'm just speaking as a resident, not as a board member, a commission member. The currently unclear roles and responsibilities, unclear workflow and connection to council, management and operational limitations, and disconnection of board work are the issues that I think the boards are facing, that we're seeing, and I think training is necessary to move that forward. I think, have any of you all not been on a board or commission? I know you, but I think you've all pretty much been on a board or commission and know the kind of work and the volunteer hours it takes and how much passion is there. And they're critical in empowering our community. And our city has benefited for decades from the people who have come through and worked on those commissions, including all of y'all. And it's a way for people to feel empowered and move there. And if they want to do more in the city government, they can move up. And that's something I think is important. And plus, it gives a lot more time for the community to speak to the boards and commission members, having more of them. So I'm a big supporter of the current boards and commissions, and I'm also a supporter of training, more recruitment, and more support. I'm not going to speak about ARC, but I attended 2 focus groups. I watched one, and I attended the second one, and there was a lot of feeling that there's a lot of important work that's done here that I'm afraid is going to get lost. I support bottom-up government, and I think that's what I hope is we can work to make sure our boards and commissions continue to do that, and I hope you'll support it too. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak is Jonathan Wainscott.
Hello, it's a privilege to address this historic council. I don't know if I've actually said historic council in person, so it's nice to be able to say that. I just wanted to reflect on some previous historic councils, specifically that of Wilhelmina Bratton, who joined council in 1982. She was the first black woman to serve on council and did so by way of the appointment in a vacancy that was opened up. And she then went on to be the second longest serving black representative on city council. She was the first person to serve with, she served on the first council to see 2 female council members. And then in 1989, she served with Jean Ellison, who then together served on the first council with 2 black members. And one of the biggest initiatives that they saw through was to push forth a referendum in the city of Asheville that would change the way that we selected the mayor. Prior to that, the mayor was actually selected by city council and not elected directly by the people. And Wilhelmina Bratton and Gene Ellison led the effort to bring forth this referendum, which of course passed because the voters do in fact want to elect our mayor directly. So they're very much responsible for expanding democracy for everybody in town. And part of the motivation for this was because in 1975, Dr. Otis Michael was elected to city council, and in that year he took the highest number of votes, and it was customary for city council to appoint the person who won by the largest margin to be the mayor. But in that year they passed, and we waited 30 more years to have our first black mayor, Terry Bellamy, who was the longest serving black representative on council with 14 years. So I just wanted to thank Wilhelmina Bratton and Gene Ellison for their historic change, expanding democracy for everybody in Asheville, and wonder if history will rhyme with this historic council as well. So thank you.
And the next person signed up to speak is Grace, I'm not sure. Oh, Baron Martinez, thank you. That was yeah.
While that's happening, can I ask a question? Are we going to,
Well, I need to put it up now or not.
are we going to get an update? Is there any space on the interwebs or somewhere that we're collecting all this feedback from boards and commissions work sessions? Am I missing it? How can I read some of this? Yes. Okay. Project page. Okay, thank you.
I was trying to avoid having this put up before we warn folks who are sitting in the audience or watching online that they're going to see violent images and graphic images of police violence. This week, the Citizen Times continued their reporting on the peaceful protesters in the summer of 2020 who were brutally injured in the civil rights movement that occurred in the summer of 2020, or that's was continued upon. Sometimes it feels as what happened, as if what happened that summer didn't happen at all because of how we've seemed to move on so quickly. In many ways, I haven't seen changes in how APD operates, although I'm really excited to see the Equity and Inclusion Department fully staffed on our Reparations Committee starting to work. But I don't think we can ignore the focus of those protests, which was police violence. And what happened at those protests? Police were violent. Based on what I read today about Division Chief Joy Ponder's settlement statement for discrimination within our fire department, I'm guessing the city doesn't need any more legal trouble. However, I'm highly encouraged that the person who was maimed here in the protest is fighting back. This is an image of someone who was blinded by a projectile from an APD officer. The officer/perpetrator is also now suing the city, saying they were not trained with these dangerous, less lethal weapons. This same officer was named as Officer of the Month for his conduct during these protests. Where were these images in the police after action report? This is another person whose skull was fractured by Asheville police during the protests. As an attendant of these protests, I was baffled by the indiscriminate and brutal use of these weapons. I think it's long past time we revisit banning them from our city as other cities have done. And I certainly do not want to be purchasing this dangerous arsenal of weapons with my tax dollars. I recognize I'm not the first person to speak about this, but I don't think we can forget it because like I said, it feels like we're moving on and I'm not ready to do that. We have to expect more demonstrations as conditions worsen in our community, particularly for Black, Brown, and low wealth community members. I'm really appreciative of the beautiful things that came out of those protests and the community that was built within them that goes on to today, but this part cannot be forgotten. Here's another injury of somebody who needed stitches in their leg. We do these brutal things and then we call them safety. This is not what safety looks like to me. APD's latest tactics
include false charges amongst people who are trying to exercise their
Thank you.
First Amendment rights. The folks who are suing the city deserve to be compensated.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
You can
let's
email us.
revisit banning the weapons.
Thank you, I appreciate it. The last person I've signed up to speak is Doug Brown, and hold on, thank you. He's like holding his phone.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, why? I have 3 whys for you tonight. Merriman Avenue, police recruiting, and taxes. Why in Sam Hill are we taking 4 lanes of Merriman Avenue and cutting them down to 2 driving lanes? We've got 21,500 cars a day. That's over 140,000 cars a week going down there. The police aren't for this. The businesses aren't for this. And the residents are, the businesses and residents aren't for it. Even ask the fire department or the EMS, and they're saying, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Why are we doing this? If we ask the people of Beaverville, largely a retired, Beaver Lake and North Asheville, largely a retired community, would you like a bike lane? These people aren't going to use a bike lane. Their biggest concern is whether an emergency vehicle is going to get down Merrimon in time to be any good to them. And you knock it down to 2 lanes? What in Sam Hill are we thinking about? Why is this an issue to our city? Another issue is recruiting the police through an agency in Arizona. We need to do that, but we spent $250,000, almost $250,000 to do that. When the first thing we need to do is, dear City Council, Mayor, and Mrs. Campbell, management too, lace up your high-top Converse and march down there to the police department and talk to those officers. Get to know them, understand them. Start a dialogue, create a bridge, and clean up the toxic environment that existed after the riots, when protests become violent and they destroy private property. That's a riot. And get to know these people and get a better environment going in there. Otherwise, the $250,000 of tax money that we have spent is going to just not even have a fighting chance. No one's going to want to come into an environment where they're not feeling supported. So why? Lace up your shoes and let's get down there and let's make amends and get a better working experience. And finally, taxes. Taxes. Mrs. Mayor, the 7 years you've been here, each year, taxes, fees, or charges have gone up. Why? And now this year, they're supposed to go up again? Have you not been going to the grocery store lately? Are you all familiar with what's going on with the gas pumps? We're killing our workforce. To raise a family of 4 in Asheville is already expensive. And if you are on Social Security and retired and live in your home, your property taxes going up means you're driving them out of the city. For Pete's sakes, why don't we have wise stewardship of our tax dollars so that we don't have to raise taxes? I'm Doug Brown, and I'm asking questions. For Pete's sakes, let's get it. Thank you.
Okay, that is the last person we have signed up to speak. Or did you want to say something? All right, anybody? I will offer that there's not a proposed tax increase this year in the budget, as you heard during the budget work session earlier today, but thank you. And that was an inaccurate statement that taxes have not gone up every year for the last 7 years. But I understand when you're running for office, you can say, all right, all right.
I'll send you an email.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and the DOT. Anyway, whatever. We'll do the fact check afterwards. All right, thank you very much, y'all. We're adjourned.